Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Tai'Shar, Manethrin, a Wheel of Time podcast. This is Will.
I'm Sam.
And we are excited to continue on. So, Sam, take it away.
All right. We catch up with Nynaeve, Egwene, Aviendha, and Elaine. They're trying to decide if they should go to Tenchiko. After interrogating the two Black Aja sisters, they captured Joya Bayer and Amiko Nagoyan. Aviendha notices that Joya looks young, which no longer the ageless face of an Aes Sedai, and they speculate this is because she was stilled. You know, in thinking about this, I would have expected the opposite, really. If no longer ageless, a woman who was stilled would revert to, looking like a 90-year-old woman.
Exactly.
But that's not what happened.
When I first encountered this, I felt like I was kind of a little bit like, come on. I feel like this is
a bit of a cop-out.
yeah, exactly. Like, it should be the opposite.
There just needed to be more of an explanation about why that is. And of course, they hand-wave it by saying, well, no one's been able to study these stilled women because they either die really fast or leave the tower, want nothing to do with Aes Sedai anymore, go start a family or whatever. So there just isn't enough known about it. But it's like, well, all right, somebody needs to figure that out because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, what is the Brown Aja even for if they haven't thoroughly studied this thing?
There's some more back and forth. Joya claims that she has turned back to the light. She says the Black Aja's plan was to break Mazrim Taim out of jail and put him up as an imposter version of Rand. Nynaeve says, the pattern will not accept another false dragon, which has always confused me as a concept, but whatever. But Joya thinks it would work on a technicality if someone else proclaimed him. I don't know. That's whatever.
Yeah.
A very, very strange lawyery kind of conversation.
Which it does make you wonder, is the pattern like, oh, got me there. I wasn't going to accept a false dragon, but you were tricky.
Well played.
Pattern was just sitting back there going, oh, no, I can't. My hands are tied.
Yeah, we'll review the footage, but flag on the play. Then Moraine shows up, and she's mad as a wet hornet and kind of ends that conversation. We switch from, in the same room, from Egwene to Elaine's perspective in Chapter 6.
Which is always funny when that happens and kind of like startling.
Yeah, it is, because at first you're like, wait, why am I hearing their... Oh, okay, I've switched perspectives.
Right. But it is funny when they manage to give you a little picture of the way this person's thinking, and then it swaps over and you hear the way that they're being perceived by somebody.
Right, especially someone like Nynaeve or Egwene, and their back and forths. And they both sort of always feel like the victim when they're both the aggressor more often than not.
Right.
Moraine is mad at Rand, but doesn't say why. So she tells the Black Aja prisoners they're going to be sent to Tar Valon for judgment and sends them away. Then Elaine tells Egwene that Bear Elaine was in Rand's bedchamber. Moraine says, he belongs to the pattern now. But Egwene whispers to Elaine, I love him like a brother and you like a sister, and basically says, have at it, I don't want him.
Right.
Moraine says she knows who her future husband will be, and it isn't Lan, with a glance to Nynaeve, which for some reason makes Nynaeve mad. I guess, of course he isn't.
I mean, the way that Moraine phrases it, too, is I bet I know the face of my husband better than you do.
Aha, fair. Which we know she learned from the snake people. We believe she
has she yet? Because she hasn't gone in.
Right. Okay. Has she?
And so,
right. No, this is before that. Okay, fair enough.
So, because I was the same way. I thought maybe that was when she found it out. But on this reread, I was wondering, okay, so what does that mean? Is she just saying you don't know, or is she actually saying that she has in her other travels somehow been enlightened as to what might be her future?
That's a fair question. So Moraine fills the ladies in about the bubbles of evil. Tells them her plan about how she wants Rand to go to war with Samael and Ilian.
Also, Bubbles of Evil, great dark friend detergent brand.
Gets out all the bloodstains.
Exactly. Bubbles of Evil.
Yeah, delicious. But that's why she's mad at Rand. He doesn't want to go to war with Ilian. He's been reading the prophecies of the dragon and decides he's going to set about fulfilling them, which is just a strange idea. Moraine tells them about the Great Holding in the Stone of Tyr, which is a warehouse full of magical junk that they've collected over the years, but it actually does have some very real ter'angreal. Maybe sangreal, we don't know.
If the Great Holding doesn't look like the warehouse at the end of Indiana Jones,
I was sort of picturing the Room of Requirement?
Well, I'm joking, but I could really totally see there being just a crate off in the side that randomly has the Ark of the Covenant in there. Because it's just a huge room full of different artifacts that they don't know what they are or what they do. They're just somehow associated with the power.
We know one thing: it's the twisted stone doorway, which is going to be in there. And Moraine says she might have to go through there and ask some questions, but it's very dangerous. There are rules. A person can only step through once, must ask 3 questions, has to hear all 3 answers before they can leave. They can't ask frivolous questions, whatever that means, or anything touching the shadow. What is a frivolous question? I don't know.
What's up?
How you doing?
You just walk into the snakes and foxes.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck?
And then they just strike you dead.
Yeah. They have no sense of humor. The doorway was in Mayen until 300 years ago, which is part of the reason Mayen was so successful and able to stay independent until they traded it. They gave it away to Tyr. Because they had a stupid ruler. So Moraine leaves, and Egwene and Elaine talk about putting Rand straight since he still thinks he and Egwene are an item. Elaine says, "In truth, I feared you might tell me I was foolish, fretting over a thing like this when we have the Black Aja to worry about. Lady, that ship sailed a long time ago. I mean, get with the teen movie program. Right. Tolkien, this ain't, all right?" The next morning, Egwene and Elaine show up on Rand's doorstep. Rand is sitting in a chair, looking like a bit of a tool because he has one leg over the arm reading a book.
That description was odd to me. It's like he's all looking, I'm just look at me.
I'm so relaxed with my leg.
I'm literate.
So their reason for being there is to help him with channeling. It came up with Moraine the day before, and they've decided to ignore her warning about birds teaching fish to fly and just how it's not going to work. So Egwene embraces Tai'Shar and delves his old wound, recoiling because it's like all the evil in the world in that one spot.
Right.
Rand mentions feeling goosebumps when she channeled, but sort of dismisses it. No, dude, that is the way you feel each other channel. You shouldn't have dismissed that so quickly.
The whole thing about all the evil in the world and that wound, I've never been struck by Forsaken, but I have had a kidney stone, and I'm pretty sure that's probably the way that it feels, all the
just
evil in the world.
Just a constant kidney stone you can't get rid of.
Just can't get rid of it.
Fair enough. Ugh, man. Rand in turn seizes Saidin. Girls don't feel anything. So he pinches their bottoms with a flow of air. This scene alternates between being interesting and just being really awkward to read aloud.
This is obviously pre-Me Too movement.
Right. But then, of course, Elaine does the same thing in reverse to him, but much worse. So I'm sort of picturing a giant bruise forming on his butt cheek.
Yes.
But that makes him mad enough. Really mad because, of course it does. It would make anybody mad. So Egwene says, "We'll do something with the power." So he responds by throwing a shield on both of them, lifting them in the air, and then he does some really unsettling things like making the fire flare up and melting statues down and making a table burst into flames. And that's when he realizes he's gone too far and just kind of puts everything back. And he's clearly embarrassed, wants them to go, but of course this wasn't the real reason they were there in the first place. Egwene still has to break up with him and let Elaine profess her love.
Right. And what better time to profess your love to someone than right after they've basically showed that they're really a psycho.
Yeah. So Egwene says, "I cannot marry you," and Rand responds, "I know." Very Han Solo.
Yeah.
And he says, "I know, I can't marry anyone, for I am the dragon reborn, destined to die." She's like, "No, you idiot, I don't like you like that. You're my brother," basically. And this hurts Rand's feelings, even though he feels the same way. So having said her piece, Egwene exits stage left. And I just hope that these scenes are really awkward. Really cheese it up. Skirt straightening occurs. And for a dude who has 3 women on the hunt for him, this gentleman is just as awkward as Perrin with the ladies, maybe more so. He doesn't notice that Elaine is still there for a minute, so he kind of Oh, you're still here. And, they talk some. She professes her interest or something. They kiss, and she heals the bruise on his butt cheek.
Yes.
And it's all together a strange scene. Then Gaul tells Rand he needs to meet with some tyrant high lords, and Elaine leaves. Thank God. And we switch to Rand's perspective, who is distracted from dealing with the simpering of the high lords by, thinking about Elaine, still thinking about the whole situation. Egwene bumps into Matt, who asks her for advice in a strange, shocking turn of events. I guess Matt still trusts Egwene a little since they grew up together, and Jordan needed a way for Matt to learn about the Twisted Stone Doorway, and how else was he going to find out? Egwene thinks Matt wants to figure out how to escape, but he just wants to figure out the holes in his memory and figure out what caused it and why he keeps spouting the old tongue. And for some reason, she just tells him about the Twisted Stone Doorway. Maybe Ta'Viren, I guess we could say. But I guess Moraine's warning didn't quite sink in to Egwene, or maybe it had the opposite effect that it was intended.
No, the way that I see this going is he just hears the parts that are like, well, Twisted Stone Doorway. Get your questions answered.
Right.
And he's like, oh, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and he promises not to go near it unless his life depends on it, but clearly he feels like his life depends on it. Then chapter 9. So this chapter throws me off a little. We were just talking earlier about switching perspectives. This chapter starts with Matt's perspective, then it shifts to Perrin seamlessly. Not even hardly even a paragraph move, and it's just literally between paragraphs, then to Egwene, Nynaeve, Elaine, and settles on Rand. So, normally there's more separation, even when we check in on everybody one after another. It almost feels like Jordan was experimenting a little bit here, shifting perspectives. But what we're doing is checking in with everybody in really short order. And this is the only chapter where they do that, one paragraph after another like that. But anyway, in this book at least, it's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
Matt realizes no one wants to hang out with him anymore after he got attacked by playing cards, and he's thinking about the stone doorway. Perrin is in bars trying to find an adventure for Fail, so she'll leave without him. Egwene and Nynaeve are still interrogating the Black Aja. Avienda spends time with Egwene since Elaine is occupied trying to thoroughly woo Rand before she has to leave, and Nynaeve and Lan. Rand spends his time making out with Elaine and asking her how to rule a kingdom. Also yelling at Tyrant nobles. And he's wondering about the prophecies of the dragon. He knows about the herons in his palm, but the prophecies also mention dragons, which he hasn't encountered yet.
And he acts like he doesn't know what dragons are at this point, which is a little confusing to me. Because, of course, he says something about, the dragon is Lews Therin, but
come on, dude,
later on...
Banner, you should know.
Right, yeah. I don't know. It's a little confusing.
It's true. Then kind of Lanfear shows up and snaps him from his reverie and tells Rand who she is. It's like, how did he not get it by now? But I guess it was because she was so hot. He just did not... so he describes her as the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. But Lanfear calls him Lews Therin, and he denies it. She says nothing is the same about your appearance except your height, and then delivers this little gem. I would know who is behind those eyes even if I found you in your cradle. How much easier everything would have been if I'd found you then. First off, ew.
Gross.
Dude. But so then she shows him her true appearance, which is apparently a slightly older hot lady. I don't know. Is it really her, though, or is this another illusion? It's hard to say.
Right. It does make you wonder, do we ever get to see Lanfear?
Yeah,
really?
why not just keep that appearance if, this one is described as older, riper, and more beautiful. Jordan uses that word more than he should. Riper for anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. It's describing people the way that you would describe a banana. It's just a little strange.
It is. Rand expects her to attack, but she says he is hers forever. Calls Ilyena a pale-haired milksop. So I googled this word because why not, and came back with a person who is indecisive and lacks courage. Synonyms include coward, weakling, and namby-pamby.
Really? Milksop?
Yeah. I think they should have used namby-pamby. Lanfear says, you loved me, and he replied, and you loved power. So was that Lews Therin? Sure seems like it. Sure threw Lanfear for a tailspin a little bit. And then she reveals her plan. Have one of the male Forsaken Osmodian teach Rand how to use the power. That's what she thinks should happen. Rand, of course, is not a fan of this plan. Lanfear says the others fear him because they are afraid of the Great Lord of the Dark, and that the Great Lord of the Dark will place him above them. She says, you should really go talk to the Great Lord in the Pit of Dune. You can bathe in his presence. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that, lady. I don't care how hot you are. But I would say Rand at this point has proven his ability to more or less resist, beautiful women trying to manipulate him to do things.
That's true.
So once he knows what he's doing with the power, her plan would be that they would use the Choden Call to nuke the rest of the Forsaken, claim the evil glory for themselves, challenge the Clear Creator, challenge the Dark One, etc. So amidst her monologuing, a gray man attempts to stab Rand with a knife. Cue battle music, screen swirl, whole thing, Yeah,
it's so a wild gray man. Oh, and by the way, the Choden Call, that huge statue that he passed by back in Kyrian, was it?
Yes, just outside of Kyrian, exactly.
This is all stuff that you have to kind of put together because it's not totally spelled out.
Right.
And it's kind of odd because when he encounters it the first time, she's with him.
Right, and she's like, we need to leave, basically.
Yeah, get out of here. Don't touch that thing. But now she's like, hey, so that huge thing that we're going to use that to destroy. I started
to figure they were close to the male one, and she didn't have a key to the female one, so like he could have pulled all that power and wiped her out if he'd known who she was or something. But,
maybe.
But the fact that she didn't have the same. So she says it's not her. This wasn't her fight. She doesn't use the Solus. And then she tells him he's an idiot if he goes out there to help his friends fight.
So, of course...
So he goes charging out. And the fights here really illustrate how Rand doesn't know what he's doing quite yet. As usual, he leads with a siding sword as opposed to throwing fireballs or, using Kalendor, which he had. He just kind of left it. But the siding sword does work in a one-on-one fight with a fade. Slices right through a black sword from Tharkandar. So some defenders of the stone rally with him to find Trollocs to fight. So the Trollocs we encountered here are one with a wolf's head, one with an eagle's head. And now I'm starting to imagine the monsters from Where the Wild Things Are. That's what I'm going with. One does nearly kill Rand. How funny would that have been?
It's that whole thing that if you're playing like a video game where you're a really important character and you have to save the world and then you just die.
Oh, yeah. I got that feeling a lot playing like the Arkham games. Like, I have really let Batman down. If Batman gets killed by random henchman number 3.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same kind of deal here. It's suddenly, oh, wait, this is how Rand, the Dragon Reborn, dies?
Another Trolloc kills the Trolloc that was trying to kill Rand, and the second one apparently reports to Lanfear, and she didn't want to watch her boy toy die quite yet, but so in thanks, Rand slams her against the wall with the power, and she does the same thing in response to him, which kind of makes for a comical image, the two of them pressed up against the opposite walls.
Right.
So he tries to figure out how to block her, but she severs his flows and is like, go back and get Kalendor, you're embarrassing yourself. So he does. He goes back, gets Kalendor, and a Fade walks in, and he just kind of turns it into mist. And I cannot imagine that would smell good. I mean, my gosh. Then again, there are dead Trollocs all over the place. So
it probably smells like the Dark One's taint.
Can't imagine the dead Trolloc smells any better, or a live one for that matter. So Rand with Kalendor walks out, takes out Shadow Spawn left and right. Does some cool stuff like making fire erupt from the fire underneath him. Then he makes a miniature thundercloud thing, which shoots lightning. It may be more of a miniature black hole made of Sidene. I don't know. Moraine sees it happen and says it shouldn't have been possible, but kind of kills all the rest of the Shadow Spawn. Kind of does his thing. Kind of nukes the whole thing. So Rand sees a dead kid, and then he does something kind of ill-advised. He's sort of drunk with power with Kalendor. Tries to bring this kid back to life. which, hey, man, wrong universe. Doesn't work like that here. Death cannot be healed. This is more like Aladdin, less like Game of Thrones. All he succeeds in doing is creepily reanimating a corpse for a second. Lan tells them that Trollocs came in on 8 grain barges and a train of wagons. Like, how did no one notice this? Come on. Rand tells,
you just feel for the guy who let those through and had to answer for that later.
Yeah, like, I was buried in paperwork for like 72 hours. I dropped the ball.
It had been a long day. I was just honestly
ready to go home. Yeah.
I said, what are the chances that this is barge full of Trollocs?
So Rand tells Moraine that Lanfear showed up and she's not surprised, which is like strange. But then Rand says he'll tell everybody his plan in the morning. The next few chapters really kind of set up what will happen next and where everyone will go. It's sort of filler, but some stuff happens anyway. Egwene decides to go to Tel'aran'rhiod without the stone ring Tir'Angreal. And the goal is to figure out what the Black Aja is up to in Tanchico. So then we have a spoiler dream montage, as usual, and off to the world of dreams. There's something of a museum in Tanchico containing various artifacts of the power. Egwene recognizes one as an Angreal, some are Tir'Angreal. She keeps exploring, and then suddenly she's in the Aiel Waste. Tel'aran'rhiod is weird like that. She trying to get where she needed to be on a subconscious level. Where she needed to be was the Aiel Waste. She just didn't understand that.
Right.
Encounters an Aiel woman wearing cotton tour, manages to jump back to Tanchico. Then right back to the Waste. Sees Birgitta briefly in the background. Has another encounter with a woman who is not someone who dreamed herself into the world of dreams. And we find out that this is Amis. Amis makes it clear that Egwene really doesn't have any idea what she's doing, and she needs training, so come to Dagobah and train. Come to the Aiel Waste. Learn how to properly travel the world of dreams. Egwene wakes up, tells the others about the encounter with Amis. Aviendha tells her who Amis is, that she's Rurik's wife, a wise woman of Cold Rock's hold. My sister, Lien, is sister wife to Amis. So then we get a bit of an explanation about Aiel polygamy practices.
Right.
Amis told Egwene that Tanchico had evil in it, which the ladies interpret to mean the Black Aja is there. Of course, we know it isn't just the Black Aja. Thus, their plan. Egwene will go to the Waste with Aviendha, while Nynaeve and Elaine will go after the Black Sisters. Just then, Moraine walks in to tell Aviendha she's been summoned by the Wise One, so hey, you're going anyway. Matt is in a bar. He's trying to figure out why Trolloc saved him from a half-man during the attack. Doesn't understand. Kendori Merchant mentions the 2 rivers. Matt confronts him and finds out that there are White Cloaks hunting the 3 Ta'veren. Matt heads back to the stone and finds Perrin packing his saddlebags. Of course, Perrin has gotten the same memo. Matt tries to talk him out of it, but Perrin's mind is made up. Matt wants to get away from Rand and all the Ta'verenness generally, but he can't figure out how. Then, Matt just kind of leaves. He's just kind of still kind of torn and runs into Barrelane and she mutters too much like me and keeps walking.
Yes. Very perceptive.
Yeah, very true. So then Matt decides he's going to do it. He's going to walk through the stone doorway. Back to Perrin, who is shirtless in his room, and Barrelane walks in, always finding a way into men's rooms. Jeez, learn to knock. She wants to tell him she wants him to tell Rand that she's leaving, and he's like, "Get your own messenger. I'm not a servant." But apparently, that just the fact that he won't do what she tells him to do is a huge turn on to Barrelane, who's not used to people disobeying her, and he's not wearing a shirt. Her intense scrutiny abruptly seemed like the study of a horse before purchase. So then she asks him to make something for her bedchambers, and Faio walks in about that moment, not pleased at all to find Barrelane there, and Perrin shirtless.
And so it begins.
Indeed. There's no way this was going to look good, and maybe this was a bit of Ta'veren pattern actively sabotaging Perrin. So Barrelane caresses his cheek and says, "I always get what I want," and walks out, which is, geez, lady.
Yeah.
And Fail just kind of...
Boundaries.
Yeah, please, just a little bit.
Come on.
Just a little bit. Fail kind of ignores this and focuses on the fact that Perrin is leaving without her. And thus begins one of the most petty, annoying lover spats in this whole series. I'm sorry, I like Mario, but this is just really annoying. This is
really the part that when people talk about Fail being annoying, this is that part.
Yes, absolutely. So Perrin tries to push her away, says he's going to, he's just trying to get her, he's trying to hurt her. So he says he's going to go see Berelaine after he finishes up at home. He doesn't want her to come because he believes he's going home to die. He really doesn't want her to get hurt. But she doesn't know that, of course. And he doesn't understand that saying stuff like that really is just going to make her want him more. Weird all around. For a study, seemingly kind of boring dude, Perrin creates a lot of drama. Especially compared to the folks you'd expect to create drama like Matt or Rand, who has 3 women after him. I mean, kind of ironic, really.
Right.
So Fael storms out, promptly runs into Berelaine, commence the catfighting. They tussle some, and then the knives literally come out. Fael pulls a knife on Berelaine, who disarms her. So Fael pulls another one, and someone was going to die if Roark hadn't shown up and kind of picked them up both by the scruff of their necks, and sends Berelaine to her room and confiscates Fael's knives. Fael's takeaway from all this is to resolve.
Like Roark just being the dad in this situation, straight up.
He really is. He even says something like, I have daughters older than you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Fael's takeaway is to resolve she will make Perrin hers before Berelaine has a chance to pounce. Can we get to back to the Trolloc fighting already? But the next chapter does make up for how ridiculous the last one was. Matt goes into the wardrobe. I mean, that is to say, the twisted stone doorway. Tyrion Grill. I personally do get Narnia vibes here, but sort of demonic Narnia vibes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, just kind of a little nod there.
I mean, it's talking animals, so why not?
Indeed. The doorway is in the Great Hold, which amounts to a basement. Matt steps through into another place. It's a round hall with a ceiling so high it's lost in shadows, surrounded by spiraled yellow columns. I love all the imagery we get here. Everything about this other world is really cool. Light comes from glowing spheres on poles, kind of like light bulbs, but magic. Then Matt meets the snake people. And as we've mentioned before, these books really don't have a lot of the typical fantasy races like dwarves, gnomes. But here's an example of a different sort of race. They look like humans, but with snake scales. They speak the old tongue, though we don't know that now because Matt doesn't realize he's unconsciously translating it in his head.
Right. He's kind of got a parcel tongue thing going on with the old tongue.
Absolutely, he does. The snake asks Matt if he has iron, torches, or musical instruments, which he doesn't, luckily. Not that he planned it that way. Luckily, his knives are steel. So Mr. Snake says, follow me.
So really, Gene Simmons would have a hard time getting in to see the Ylfin.
It's true. So as he's following the snake dude, he can see some windows. Out some windows, it's a different world, kind of wispy trees, a dim overcast sky, lacking clouds. Then he sees through one window, he sees 3 silver spires. The snake man ushers Matt into a room with 3 pedestals, each holding another snake person. Lots of things in threes in this world. I love the voice Michael Kramer does for the snake people. The strain.
Yes, the strain is too much. It's too much.
So Matt has 3 questions. His first question is, should I go home and help my people? Clearly he's conflicted about it. A snake lady doesn't really answer directly. She says, you must go to Roidion. After each answer, a bell tolls. And the snake people kind of sway like cobras in a basket. I cannot wait to say this in the show. I hope we get this far because this is just, to me, this is one of the coolest kind of scenes and like just the imagery around this.
Oh, yeah,
it's awesome.
For sure.
The snake people say, he is another, meaning Ta'Viren, I guess. They also say the strain, the savor, it has been too long. It makes sense. The powerful impact, that Ta'Viren have on the pattern could destroy them, but answering his questions really makes them feel good because he's powerful and has impact on the world, and they want to sift through his memories. But it's dangerous for them. Matt doesn't like the answer, so the snake lady tells him he'll die if he doesn't go to Roidion. His next question is, why? Why must I go? Another snake tells him he would be sidestepping his fate, and someone will kill him who does not want that fate fulfilled. So he makes him answer one more question, even though he's already asked 3. What fate? And so he kind of drags it out of him. To bury the daughter of the 9 moons, to die and live again, and live once more a part of what was, to give up half the light of the world to save the world. So now Matt is going to ask every woman he meets if she knows anything about the 9 moons. every woman.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to be fair, wouldn't you? I mean,
True.
Hey, so are you the lady I'm going to marry? No?
No.
Okay,
All right, fair enough.
All right, well, we're just going to have some fun.
This all makes Matt really angry, and he's really ready to start punching some snakes. So they just forcibly hurl him out of the twisted stone doorway. I just want to see him just like fly head first out. He gets up just like yelling and shaking his fists, yelling at the stone doorway until Rand walks out, followed closely by Moraine. So I sort of figure the snake people place must be instanced. It's a instance dungeon because Matt never bumped into them, it was in a separate instance. If he had, the snake place, so Rand explains that he learned about the doorway from a book, but he didn't really understand much because it was the old tongue and he had somebody translating for him. And Matt's sort of shocked realizing that he's been translating the old tongue this whole time. Moraine explains to them that the snakes rummage through sensations, emotions, and experiences, and that's why they want to answer their questions. And then when neither of them will tell her what they learned, she leaves. So does Rand. So that takes us to chapter 16.
Okay, so we're going to pause right here for a moment, and we will continue on next week with more of The Shadow Rising. As always, I want to remind you that you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at PodcastTSM, and be sure to let us know if you have any thoughts about what we've been talking about, if you're reading along with us, what your favorite part of the books are, if you think that we're totally misunderstanding something. We'd love to hear from you. You can also email us, will@tsmpodcast.com, sam@tsmpodcast.com, or just stuff@tsmpodcast.com. That'll all end up in our inboxes and we can respond to it. We'd love to give shout outs. So if you have a good question for us or let us know that you like the show, we'll be glad to say, hey, next time that we're podcasting. So we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, Tai'Shar Manethrin.